Welcome, everyone, to another CEC CITL AI Quick Take on the responsible use of AI in education. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. James Basham from the University of Kansas and director of the Center for Innovation Design and Digital Learning, or what we call CITL. In this quick take, we're going to discuss key variables for safe, ethical, and informed AI use in your professional practice. As we all know, AI is being integrated throughout everyone's day-to-day practice. And in this video, what we hope to provide you are some basics for informing that practice. At CITL, we see AI as a tool for supporting teaching and learning, not as a replacement for educators' expertise. So whether you're a teacher, educator, researcher, or educational leader, this session will help you understand some of the basics in the vocabulary and the responsible use in AI. Before we get started, let me do a quick introduction to CITL. CITL is a national technology center supported by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs. Our center is focused on strengthening educators and special educators' capacity to use innovative practices and educational technology to support individuals with disabilities. Our work focuses on advancing the field by conducting new research and translating existing research to help educators at all levels integrate emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, assistive technologies, and educational technologies responsibly. You can learn more about our work at ciddl.org. It's also important to know that while CITL is funded by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs, our views and our content shared with you during this presentation and on our website do not represent the positions of the Department of Education, do not assume endorsement by the federal government. Additionally, CITL does not endorse any technology products. Any products shared with you in this presentation or in our other work are simply a demonstration of the capacities of current systems. Matt, so AI is already showing up. You want to talk a little bit about where we're already seeing it?
Yeah, the truth is it's not coming, it's already here, and our students are already using it. For example, they're using it to promote their language abilities, their writing abilities, and they're using it for things like coding. And what we need to do as teachers is be able to take what they're doing and utilize it or leverage it in order to make informed instructional decisions about the students.
Yeah, that's great. And I know at CITL, we've been talking about these three core guardrails as we think about AI integration. You want to run us through some of the overview of the three core guardrails before we dive in a little deeper?
Sure. The first guardrail is safety and privacy. The second one is opportunity and access for all. And the third is transparency and accountability.
Yeah. So when we begin to talk about those things, it kind of, and then open them up, it really kind of opens up a conversation for how not only teachers can use this in the classroom, but also for how administrators can start thinking about this integration process as well at the district level. But when we talk about safety and privacy, what we're really talking about is ensuring that things like personally identifiable information of our students are not entered into a system that we're using, right? So that we are trying to personalize the learning process, and we can use the AI to help do this, but we need to make sure that the human element, that the humans are at the center of the conversation, and that we're following rules like FERPA and IDEA as we integrate artificial intelligence into our professional work. So when we talk about opportunity and access, I mean, this is essentially kind of something we've talked about with all types of technology in the past with students with disabilities. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, but I would say that one of the concerns that we have is that we don't amplify bias. So AI inherently is biased in that it was trained on a corpus of information that came from a largely uniform, uniform. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it was trained on human data, right? And so it's going to go with what human data is out there. And what we already know is that students with disabilities, by and large, are on the margins. And so as special educators, we have to be on the lookout for ensuring that the students we're working with, the individuals we're working with, are actually dealt with, right? But the other option that when we think about opportunity and access is ensuring that people that don't want to use AI have an opportunity to not use AI as well. We think that's kind of an important thing. And we're to the transparency and accountability, the third guardrail. The idea that we need to have humans in the loop, as you kind of brought up, right? We need to continually have humans in the loop. We need to ensure that by and large, people are receiving the professional development they need. That we need to have a community discussion around what's being integrated, what's not being integrated. We need to allow ourselves to ask questions of how we're deciding what AI is being used, what AI is not being used, and why. And we need to prioritize transparency and ensuring these decisions that are being made are clear as to when AI is being integrated and when it's not. And then allowing family members overall across a school building or a district to be able to engage in this conversation around when AI is important and when it's being integrated and how humans are involved in that process. Those are critically important things.
And so when you look through these three lenses, you understand how potentially powerful the AI can be, but you also have to take a back seat and think independently about whether what you're doing is going to make sense for the students and result in following these three guidelines.
That's exactly right. And, we've had IDEA and FERPA around for a long time in the education system, and we've been educating teachers for a long time on these things. But how does IDEA and FERPA, when we think about it here at CITL, and when we think about AI integration, how are they supporting our decision making and use of AI?
Well, I think it supports not only our students with disabilities, but also our multilingual learners, right? And the way to do that is by having human-led decision-making processes in place as we're teaching.
But overall, what we're thinking about with IDEA and FERPA guidance is that we have to follow these two laws as legal frameworks for ethical AI integration. I think that's a critically important sort of thing.
That's true. I mean, you are legally accountable, and only a professional should be making that decision.
So, what are some basic guiding questions that we can ask as we're thinking about using these different tools? And I know we have a pretty long list of these guiding questions, but just a few of them here today of the things that can help guide this AI integration. You want to talk about any of them, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, no, I think the checklist is a standard set of questions that everyone should take a look at just to figure out whether the tools that they're using are actually going to meet the educational outcomes that are associated with the student's individual IEP, right? Like that should be the first gateway as a teacher looks at.
Exactly. So basic things like what student data is being collected, how is it being stored, how's it being shared, obviously does it meet accessibility guidelines. These are basic sort of things that we look at with all technology, but it's even more meaningful when we think about the power of artificial intelligence and how it's being developed, right?
Right. And it should be a concern to everybody that the information that's being uploaded is not associated. I know I'm going back to FERPA here, but the information should not in any way be associated to a student name or ID number. That is a
Yes.
critical component.
Yeah, and we need to make sure there's data privacy guidelines in place, and these are things that hopefully administrators are checking as they're being those policy architects on how this is being integrated.
Exactly, exactly. And it's also going to fall into the IT department as well, because on many schools with one-to-one initiatives, you've got students who are taking their laptops and they're bringing them home every night.
Yeah, that's right. So we usually base a lot of our conversations, and we're going to be wrapping up here pretty quickly, but again, we've all kind of, we both referenced this in this conversation today already, but AI literacy and really moving towards AI fluency is critical to these conversations. We need to ensure that we are building those digital literacy and AI fluency sort of skill sets and knowledge base there to help support people. What are some things that when we talk about this what are some things we usually talk about, Matt?
Well, often it's accessibility comes first, right? So are the tools going to be accessible to the students we're serving? And I think that's a critical first gateway. But beyond accessibility, you've got to ask yourself whether the tools are directly aligned to the policies in your district. So that's something that some districts have already developed, some states have already developed, but as we know, there's many districts across the country with no AI policy. However, that said, when you look at the workforce, there is no place that I'm aware of where folks are bringing in people to work for them and saying, I don't want you to use AI to be more efficient. And so it's critically important that we're teaching the students the skills to be AI literate so that when they leave us and enter the workforce, they can actually do a job in an efficient manner.
Yeah, that's right. Because AI is so new to many people, one of the other things we've been encouraging is kind of that last bullet, which we need to really develop community-wide literacy. So it's not just developing the literacy of our educators and education leaders and our students, but also developing the literacy of the parents and our community members out there, which is critically important to this work. So as special educators, really adhere to these three core guardrails that we talked about at the very beginning, right? Yeah. Safety and privacy, opportunity and access for all, and transparency and accountability.
So the one thing that I think I would love to expand on if we had more time was the transparency and accountability. I think that telling students that they can or cannot use AI is something that if you're going to say to a student, you can't use AI on this, you need to identify for them what is AI and what isn't. And I think that's an area that we're really lacking in. Right. So in the schools that I visit, folks are saying you can't use AI on this assignment. Yet in the student's browser, you're going to see 3 different types of AI included. And are the students really not supposed to use that as they're completing the assignment when it's already embedded in their laptop on their safe browser that the school has supplied? It's a major concern.
Yeah. I mean, it's being embedded everywhere. I mean, right. So if we had more forward to seeing everyone in the Quick Takes live demo that we're going to do, where we're going to bring in high leverage practices and show you how we can integrate these core lenses into how we operate and give you a quick demonstration of that. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Let's just take a minute to show you how you could put some of the information we just talked about into practice. So I've pulled up to the HLP, their high leverage practice GPT that I created last year to help pre-service and in-service teachers understand high leverage practices. If you don't know, high leverage practices are research-based practices supported by the Cedar Center, one of our sister centers funded by OSEP, and the Council for Exceptional Children. And the basis for this GPT is to help those teachers and help teachers overall use these practices effectively. So I'm going to go ahead and type in, copy paste there, a scenario. Notice the scenario I've given it. So I've kind of asked about a specific student. I've not given any personally identifiable information away. So I'm protecting the PII, but I am giving characteristics that might support the answer I need. And I'm going to see what it actually says here. So, of course, the corpus that it's using is a trusted corpus of information. But it's still important for you to go through and read what the AI kind of pulls together for you and gives you ideas for how to use these high leverage practices in your classroom. And you, being the human in the loop, have to make the decision whether it's useful or not useful to how you might go through and teach the lesson. And I think it's still building here, but we can kind of go down and see what it comes up with. Yeah, it's still working on some ideas. Although, wow, it's got a lot of information kind of going on there, doesn't it? But overall, again, you have to be the arbiter of whether this is going to be used or not used in your classroom. And this in particular, GPT is going to ask clarifying questions, like what type of primary source are you being, is it in a co-taught classroom? these are the types of things that you can go on to kind of hone in the answer that to make sure you're getting the answer you're looking for. But it's examples like these, making sure that we're protecting personally identifiable information, using a trusted source AI. This is something that I have built for teachers across the globe to use, and pre-service, in-service teachers to use. And so I know it's trusted, but again, it's something you need to question as you're using it, whether it meets your needs. I hope this helps.